For our third and final fun fact, an article done by the Human Rights Watch by Lena Yoon. North Korea is one of the most repressive countries in the world, and through COVID-19, Kim Jong-un made sure to maintain a fearful obedience throughout the people of North Korea, through threats of execution, imprisonment, and enforced disappearances, and forced hard labor and detention in prison camps. So as you can see, North Korea is a very oppressive country. Now we'll be giving book review and just how we felt about the book and what we thought about it and how much we liked it. Overall, I thought it was a pretty strong book. Out of 10, I'd give it a 7. I thought the themes were pretty good. The conflict in the story was great, even though it wasn't like person versus person. The conflict, I really enjoyed it. And then it was great character development all throughout the book. The ending, it wasn't my favorite necessarily, but the climax, I really enjoyed the climax. And then I thought it also had a very strong plot summary, and the themes, like everything, like it tied the themes tied everything together because, oppression was a big theme. I would say the biggest theme throughout the book, but not necessarily even oppression. It was just like the fight for freedom was like the major theme, and I guess you could call that oppression too, but I thought the themes were pretty good. But the other two, the reason I would say good themes but not great is because the other two themes kind of tied into that big theme. It wasn't like 3 separate themes. They tied together, like the animosity and privacy we talked about before. The conflict was definitely my favorite part of the book because you see Hyeonseo, just a normal North Korean civilian, and it really shows you what everyone else went through too, because some obviously got it worse because lucky for Hyeonseo, her family had a little bit of stature in North Korea. But the conflict was great. It was mostly a character versus society, and you get that a lot in books, but you don't get it a lot to this level, I guess, because North Korea is such, I wouldn't call it a great society, but a powerful one, and just seeing its dictatorship and its oppression rain down on the people, given through the example of Hyeonseo, it was, I would say, great. And then the character development is something I also really enjoyed. You see Hyeonseo really grow up, and you see her have to make decisions also for her family. And she goes from a kind of, like kind of her head's in the clouds, young little girl, because she's so young, she really can't understand what's happening until she grows into this grown woman that has to take leadership in her family and really try and help get her family out of North Korea. And you just see her grow stronger and stronger. And then character development and side characters, Minho, you see, he's also kind of the same, but like, I guess he might have been still kind of young when they first escaped North Korea, so you still see him like not being able to take order, even though he's the man of the family. But he wasn't really able to take order because you see him, he's so in love with his girlfriend that when he has to make the decision to leave her, he really couldn't. It was his sister that had to make the decision for him, and that was pretty enjoyable to read. And just Hyeonseo definitely had some very strong character development. My least favorite of the book probably was the ending. I would say it was all right, but I guess it's because it was a real life story, and typically you're not going to get these major traumatic endings in real life stories because it's not fiction. So it's 100% real, and it's just because if it's a real life story, it's also, I guess, rare to see a story like this, but because it's a real life story, its ending isn't just going to be something crazy like we see in movies. The climax, it was great. It was great. I loved the climax. I would say it was when Hyeonseo escaped to North Korea with her family. So she are not out of North Korea with her family finally, because she escaped first, and then she ended up picking up her family, and then throughout that entire like area of the book, you just kind of ride with them, and like it's suspenseful because you never know when some investigators or some secret police are gonna arrest them for being refugees, which actually ends up happening to her brother and her mother, Minho, and you see that happening, and then that's when kind of the resolution starts to settle in, because she goes, finds her family, and then she gets called out for being a refugee herself, and then so on. They go to the South Korean embassy, and then the story kind of chills from there. I say it had a really strong plot summary, good beginning, resolution was good, and then rising action was solid, climax was great, and then ending obviously was not my favorite, but it was still a pretty strong ending, because I guess you could call it a happy ending. And just the plot summary itself was strong, and then all together the themes, the conflict, character development, the symbols throughout the book, also very great symbols throughout the book. You see masks, not obviously a mask, but that ties into oppression, because people had to put on these fronts to actually be able to like live in North Korea, because if they didn't and they were honest in North Korea, then they probably would be prosecuted. But everything, I think it was a strong book, and I enjoyed it.